What's up guys, it's Light Spiral here, and today I'm bringing you a video that was requested to me to make, and it was to make a R3 team. So he just said make an R3 team if I remember right, but I took it a step further and I made a farmable R3 team. So this is completely farmable, and I'll explain how it works as well as the best replacements for it and how to so the replacements for it is to obviously optimize this team, but also if you were to try and transition into R4 or R5, this team that you're seeing here, I can't prove it, but I would imagine that it could beat R5 with really good runes, but this is not the best team in the world, and obviously you would want to 6-star the Kkona, because you can see here this Kkona only has 5-star level 35. So I would imagine that this team can beat R5, but I can't prove, I don't know, I haven't done it yet. I have an R5 team, but it's not farmable, so I didn't want to showcase it, just because I figured people would want to see a farmable team more. So this guy's team right here that I'm seeing, I'm not liking too much. So I guess it's not that bad that he left, because he was probably going to lose to that team. But anyways, I'll get into explaining my team now, and hopefully we get someone to join and we can actually start a raid sometime. Let's see if we can find a party really quick. So my only leader skill is defense, so hopefully this guy switches to Hua's leader skill really quick. Okay, there we go. So I'll start it now. I'll get into the team. So first of all, I'm running a 3-man front line. Whether you want to run 3-man, 2-man, 4-man front line is just dependent on your runes. If you only have runes to make 2 monsters tanky enough for front line, just do 2-man front line. If you have enough for 3 or 4, do 3 or 4. It doesn't really matter, but I will say that it is hard to make Colleen and it's hard to make Kkona frontline monsters because their base defense is so low. Now Darian also has very low base defense, but since you don't need speed on him because of his skills, you can just build him on a full tank build, whereas Kkona and Colleen both need speed on them, so it's hard to make them speed and enough HP to survive frontline. So that's the front line, but so I'll start actually getting into the monsters themselves. I guess I'll just start with Bella. The front line is Bella, Darian, and the Fire Panda, Zhang, and the back line is Theo, Kkona, Colleen. But so here's my Bella's runes. These runes are better than what you really need to beat R5. Like I said, or R3, I mean, I can beat R5. So obviously these stats are higher than what you need to beat R3. But what you're looking for on Bella, if mine is on the front line, so I did get enough HP and defense for it to survive. In raids, I believe the accuracy required is only 30%. I could be wrong on that, but what I've heard or what I've read on Reddit is that you only need about 30% accuracy for it to be max. So if you can get about 30 accuracy and then as much speed, HP, defense as possible, and obviously violent is preferred but not necessarily required, but I would say you definitely want violent. And then that's kind of Bella. Darian is pretty easy to build. The best sets for him is probably just triple revenge, and if you just get 30 accuracy, and then after that you just need him tanky enough to survive. I don't have my Darian runed for raids. I actually have him runed for PvP, so I have him on a little bit of a damage hybrid. That's why he's got 88 crit rate. Actually, I think he even has crit rate slot 4. Yeah, he does. But Darian, you just make him tanky enough to survive, and if you can, triple revenge is best. Oops, I didn't mean to click. I meant to click on the Panda. My Panda is ruined for R5, so these stats are way more than you need. Those stats work in R5, so they'll definitely work in R3 too. We'll see the time here. 2:14, that's my new best, but it's kind of hard to judge a time on a team because of the fact that there's 2 other guys helping me do this, so it's not really fair to judge how fast this team is. There's only 1 damage dealer, so it's not insanely fast or anything. But when the raid starts again, I'll talk about the panda. But now that I'm in this loading screen right here, I will mention that it is worth noting that this team only has the 1 leader skill. You only get the defense leader skill, which is why this isn't necessarily the best team, because if your teammates are in the same situation as you, you're only going to have this. I'm actually forgetting that Theo actually does have a crit rate leader, so never mind what I just said. Theo's got a nat 5 crit rate leader. Because I was thinking, why is this guy using the panda leader when he's supposed to use Hua? But it's because I have Theo, so it actually makes sense. Is someone gonna join here? Okay, well, I guess I'll back out of this and hopefully I can show you another raid. And if I can't, I'll still just go over the runes with you or whatever. But yeah, okay. If we get back, or when we get back, I'll show you the Pandas Runes and how to rune him and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, while we're in this loading screen, Panda, preferred set on him, whatever makes him tanky, really, is what you want. In terms of leader skills for the panda, or in terms of sets for the panda, preferably you could get him like 30 accuracy. Mine only has 20, which is not ideal. And then you just want him tanky. He's basically just a frontline tank that has this 3rd skill, which is pretty good because it can attack debuff, speed decrease, glancing hit, and it looks like that's it. But that skill's pretty good. So getting down to the bottom line, or back line, sorry, not the bottom line. Here's Theo. Preferred sets for him. You could go Violent if you want, but also Fatal, Swift, or Rage would work well. Will is pointless. Shield is pointless. Revenge is okay. I don't have mine ruined for raids. I have them ruined for PvP. Do we have a lobby now? Okay, well this guy here doesn't have a cleanser, so I'm not expecting a lot from him. This guy did bring a Kkona. Okay. So we'll see. I might end up tanking this middle head because if I had to guess right now, this guy in the middle is going to die. But we'll see on that. And so Theo Stats, look out for on him. You don't really need accuracy at all. Don't worry about landing the defense break with him. Just try and get as much damage as possible. And he needs to be tanky enough to survive. So in terms of how tanky that needs to be, if he's on the back line, I'd recommend at least 17,000 HP. And that's for R3. As you go up, you obviously need more HP, but I'd say at least 17. Oh, see, I've got exactly like 17,000 HP, and he is able to survive fine. So here's Kkona. Kkona, I gave him my Lisa runes because my Kkona was just sitting in storage with no runes. But so these runes are intended for my Lisa, who's in my R5 team. So these runes are a little overkill, but this is only a 5-star. But on your Kkona, you want 70 resistance. So if you have a resistance leader skill from like Briand or Diaz or whatever it might be, you'll have 100% resistance. As well as you want him on a violent and as fast as you can and still get at least like 20,000 HP. So right here, he's got about 22,000 HP. So that's enough for him to survive. And so after that, it's just as fast as you can with 70 resistance. Because as your cleanser, and as a solo cleanser, it's really important that he gets a lot of turns off so you can keep your team cleansed. So then the last one here is Colleen, who's also ruined on my R5 team. So these runes are better than what you need. But look for the 30 accuracy. And then you need it fast so you can heal, because especially if Bella's in your front line like mine is, then your Bella might not be that fast. So your Colleen might need to pick up the slack. So fast, violent is preferred. Revenge is nice, but not necessary. And then you need it tanky enough to survive. So once again, like 20,000-ish HP maybe. And so that's like the rune requirements of this team. The way that the team's like synergy, so to say, works, or how the team works in terms of raid, is these frontliners, like this frontline, even if it's just Darien and the Fire Panda, I used to run that as my R5 frontline, just those two. I don't anymore, but I used to. The front line, you just need them tanky enough to survive, and hopefully you can get a little bit of accuracy so they can land debuffs on revenge procs and stuff. And they're just there basically to tank out stuff. The back line is where you're really getting your work done. The back line will have your cleanser, your healer, your damage dealer. So that's that. And the defense breaks, in this case, will come from revenge procs on the front line, assuming you have revenge. Of course, I don't actually have revenge on these guys, but that's because the panda gives himself a revenge buff, and I don't use Darien anymore, so I took revenge set off of him. And then as for important debuffs, you get attack debuff from Darien, Colleen, and the Fire Panda. So you'll get plenty of attack debuff. You get defense break from Theo, Panda, Darien, and Bella. So you'll definitely have defense break. You'll get heal block from the Colleen. You'll get glancing and speed debuff potentially from the Panda. Ideally, you would get more speed debuffs, and that's where I'm going to talk about replacements. The best replacements that come to my mind, just like off the top of my head, is Theo is not really great in raids. He doesn't really do anything but damage. So because of that, I recommend that if you can, instead of Theo, if you have Hua, if you have Stella, if you have Xiaolin, there's a ton of damage dealers that will do a lot more than Theo in raids, but Theo's farmable, so I included him in this team. But note that Theo is really not very good in raids, and so if you don't have a Theo, don't worry. And if you do have a Theo, I would recommend trying to find a replacement for it. And preferably one that has some way to debuff the enemy speed. So we'll see the runtime on this. Another thing I want to mention is this team does have 3 healers in the Panda, Colleen, and Vero, as well as the Darien passive. So I did 51% right there, so I'm assuming these other guys are not that good. But I'm going to back out of this raid session because I don't want to do another one. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I forgot about. But so yeah, there's 2 leader skills. I said there was 1 earlier, but there is 2. And they're both not 5 leader skills, so they're both actually pretty good. And like I said earlier, this team I would imagine could transition into R5 if you had really good runes, but it's not the best team in the world. I'd say you could switch Theo for a lot of different damage dealers that are better in raids, as well as Bella could definitely be replaced for someone that does a little more than what Bella does. If you do want to replace Bella, I definitely go with another healer. But so if you had something like Chasoon works a lot better, or whatever. If you have Ariel, if you have Praha, if you have like something like that, that works really well too. It works good to replace Bella. Another thing I just remembered that's a good replacement for the Theomars is actually a damage to Sarian. His passive will make it so he does more damage based on the amount of debuffs on the enemy, and normally the raid boss gets a lot of debuffs, as well as he has a resistance leader skill, which is really nice. So Tessarian is a better option than Theo, I would say, if it's a damage Tessarian. If it's not damage Tessarian, I don't know if I'd really bother with it. So I guess that's kind of that for the team. I hope I didn't forget something. If I did, just tell me in the comments, and I will hopefully do something about it. But that's kind of it for today, guys. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to tell me in the comment section. As well as if there's any other videos you want to see, you can also just tell me that in the comment section. But that's all I have for today, though, guys. So may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows.